just go with this. Okay, hopefully this is working. Just let me know if you can hear me or not, but that's like so annoying if I was actually just muted for 20 minutes. That's so annoying. But I guess maybe not. Okay, sweet. Thank you. But you like literally couldn't hear anything until just now, like from when you signed on, because it sounded like you were responding to shit that I was saying. Like I was like, yeah, happy hump day. But you like didn't hear me saying that to you at all, because that means that I was like just muted for like the last half an hour, and that's super annoying. But whatever. I guess I can just like pretend that didn't happen. And okay, so a minute or two. Did you hear me ever? Because I think I saw when you came in, but like, were you ever able to hear me talking at one point? Um, because maybe that was what that like ding noise was. There's like something that was happening like in the background of my. Well, darn it. I wonder if I should like. Oh, you were able to hear me at one point. Okay. Well, I don't know. Shit, that's annoying. I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna start over, and then I'm gonna like edit this video where I'll cut off the first like 20 minutes, because I've only been on here 20 minutes. So okay, so redo. I heard a sound, then silence. Good now. Okay, perfect. Sweet. I'm gonna go back into this because I have a feeling it was going like on and off over those 20 minutes. But yeah. So welcome to my third episode of the ACAB True Crime podcast. Do you want to hear some fucked up shit? And I just was gonna give a couple of quick updates about the true crime world, and then go into the follow-up that I had from the David brief last week about I like had mentioned there was like several things that I was going to follow up about that I was able to find and that I want to share with you. So I will try to get over these updates really quick and not spend 20 minutes on it like I just did. But Alex Murdaugh just got a new trial. He was granted a new trial. That was a really high profile case down in South Carolina. That was, it was like, I think in 2022 or 2023, he was found guilty of red rumming his wife and his son. And apparently, the clerk, the law clerk, which is usually it's someone that's like straight out of law school and like it's just getting good practice and experience working with a judge where you're their law clerk, so you can kind of get the feel of everything a little bit better before you actually like start applying for jobs. But I don't know, because this is like a pretty small town, like I think that they don't really have that same um need for. I don't know. I don't know anything about this law clerk, but the way I like imagined it was that it was like some gossipy later lady that's like just always been the law clerk for this judge in this county. So, and she apparently was talking to the jurors and talking about how awful like Murrah was, and because she knew him like personally because they like all lived in the same area. And he like she commented that his credibility was like super low, that she didn't believe that what he was saying on the stand was true, that he like hadn't actually red rummed his wife and his son. And then she was like making comments about like body language too, which is like for sure pseudoscience. So like even the shit that she was saying to them wasn't like founded in like any type of factual information. It was just that she was like gossiping basically. And the appeal like went up to the South Carolina Supreme Court, and they just came out today saying that they are going to grant him a new trial. So that's kind of a big deal. He was also guilty of a bunch of fraud with financial stuff, and I have a theory that he might have been doing some like, I don't know, like work with organized crime people in terms of like drug and human trafficking down there. And I had kind of looked into that, but then I just kind of stopped because part of me was like, maybe he didn't actually red rum his wife and his son, but someone else did because it was like a threat for him because he wasn't able to like pay these people back that he needed to. So like, I mean that was just like because I'm like, who could kill their like wife and son? But I mean, really desperate people like Alex Murda appeared to be during the trial. So I think they definitely had gotten the finding or like the what is it called? Like when you come up with a verdict. I think that the jury got the verdict correctly, but unfortunately, because of due process, they will, I think it's due process or no, it says, oh, okay. They found that the former Colton County clerk, Becky Hill, improperly influenced the jury because the original trial, including comments about Murdoch's credibility and body language. Because of that, the court said he was denied a fair trial by an impartial jury, which is like one of the, you know, main things that we need to meet in our justice system, or so we say. But I think it is kind of messed up in a way because they just, it's like we know this dude did it. It was like very, there's like really solid evidence of like a recording of his voice down there. And, um, he was just a really crappy person. There was like other stuff following behind him, like, some like one of his like cleaner ladies had died on his property and it was like pretty suspicious. And then he like ripped off her children and like tried like basically stole like $1 million from that. And like that is part of the financial crimes that he's currently doing time for. And like just because he's getting a new trial on this doesn't mean that he's like going to be set free by any means. Like he is going to be in prison this whole time. And he's basically doing life anyways because of the financial crimes. So it's kind of like in my mind, I'm like, seems like kind of like a waste of money to try him again. Like, let me know what people think about that because I know a lot of people are like, they want to make sure that people see justice and that on the books he is charged with red rumming his, son and wife. But I feel like the justice system is kind of bullshit anyways, and there's so many people that end up not having fair trials and don't get, granted brand new cases. And that's with people that literally didn't have fair trials, and it probably meant that they were being sent to prison like unjustly, like they were like falsely accused, and we don't see those types of people actually get new trials. So I think it is kind of bullshit, especially because we already know he's going to be in there. Yeah, exactly. For a 50 something guy, 20 years um, of 20 years for fraud and theft is pretty much life sentence for sure. I mean, I feel like, yeah, although I guess it is. If it's only 20 years, and I can see people like, but I bet, well, you never know. I mean, maybe he could live till he was like 85, but I mean, is that really what his sentence is? That it's just 20 years because of the financial stuff? Because then I'm kind of like, well, I guess maybe they should retry him just to make sure that he never gets out. But again, it's like, I wouldn't be surprised. He's like an old white guy, and we know how our justice system loves old white men. So I have a feeling that, this isn't surprising, I guess. But yeah, so the prosecutor said that he will be retried. So let me know if anyone is interested in following that case. It was already like a pretty extensive case that was followed like, for 3 or 4 years ago, but I would be willing to watch the trial again and kind of pull up some of the old theories that I was thinking of that would make it seem like maybe he did or didn't do it. I mean, I think either way, he's totally a crappy person and everything, but he pled guilty for 20 something sentence. We'll be watching the new. Okay. Sweet. Okay. Well, I will plan on covering the new trial then too. I do think it is a really interesting case and it was like pretty high profile. So, um, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, hopefully he still gets found guilty again because I mean, did you have any thoughts that maybe he didn't do it? Because I pretty much the whole time was like I said, I had like a brief time where I was like, I think maybe organized crime did it. But then when they had the evidence with the Snapchat recording that took place down with at the dog kennels where he allegedly was, unalived his wife and son. He said he never went down there, but they do have a recording of his voice down there. And that kind of is like, well, why would you lie about that if, you didn't do it? So, but yeah, so cool. I will get that in the calendar and follow that for sure. And it's kind of, I'm excited to like follow trial. I was like really excited to follow the Idaho 4 case, but then they, ended up clean. So that was kind of a bummer. But one of these days I will be able to, well, I did Afro Man too. And that went pretty well, I think. So hold on, just do a little sip here. Okay, and then the other update today that came out is from the Corey Richens trial. And that was from when not sure I would vote guilty, but would not feel safe going hunting with. Okay, that's interesting. What makes you think that maybe he didn't do it? Like, who would be the person that would have done it then in your mind? Or like, what would, like, I guess, like, what's your theory of the crime with that? Because I can believe it, but um, and honestly, I probably would go hunting with him as long as I like didn't know any of his secrets and like didn't owe him money, you know. But and he sounds like he used to be kind of like an all right dude, but because I feel like other people were like surprised and saying that he didn't do it. But I mean, also his wife kind of sounded like, I mean, I don't want to talk bad about the dad, but um, yeah, that's true. Just weird that afternoon you are laughing and then take out the family. I know, but like people can be weird, you know? I think people can really compartmentalize just different time periods and like kind of be able to convince themselves or something. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, if it came out that he didn't do it, I wouldn't be like completely shocked either. But I do think it's like as a result of something that he did, you know? Because who else would have the motive to red rum his wife and kids? Um, but yeah, that's true. They didn't find the rifle. Like who? Yeah, I wonder what he did do with that rifle. Oh, now I can't really remember because I do remember that it was supposedly like with a gun that he did have, but then they weren't ever able to like find it again. But then they thought that maybe oh yeah, that's right. Didn't he like in between, he left, he like drove back in and then he was like calling 911 and it sounded like he was going in and out of certain like zip codes or like county areas. And I think that they were theorizing that that is when he took the firearm and like drove it out somewhere to get rid of it. And then like just happened to, they saw that his like location was changing when he called that in. So, which was also kind of like another red flag, I think, in a way. So, and yeah. Um, so yeah. And with Corey Richin, so she is another pretty interesting case. And I didn't follow this case super. I followed it, but I didn't do any reporting on it because honestly, she's just kind of annoying to me and just a selfish person that I think obviously wanted just money and was greedy. And to me, like, that's not super interesting, but it was a little weird that she ended up writing a children's book about children losing their parents when she was the one that actually like red rummed the other parent that she was writing the book about. So that's a little weird. She ended up unaliving her husband, Eric Richens, and she was found guilty of giving him an overdose level of fentanyl in one of his drinks. And they showed evidence that she the person that she bought it from, and different text messages that she was having in conversations with a man that she was having an affair with. And it was mostly like about money and how she felt like controlled by her husband. His name was Eric Richens. Um, so she was scheduled or sentenced today. She was found guilty in March, and then she had her sentencing today, which is her ex-husband's birthday. And I think, she tried to ask for an extension like a couple weeks ago, and the judge denied it. So I think it was like purposeful that they, um, scheduled it for this time period. And yeah, so she was convicted of aggravated red rum and other charges, including insurance fraud, forgery, and also an earlier attempted poisoning allegation. And she maintained her innocence at sentencing and reportedly plans to appeal, which does not surprise me one bit at all. Um, it was his 44th birthday today, or what would have been Eric's 44th birthday. And also the children, they had 3 kids. One of them was like a toddler, so he probably wouldn't even really be able to remember much about this, but there was 2 other little bit older ones, and now it's been like another 3 or 4 years since she was put in to jail that they haven't had contact with her, and they've been staying with his family members. And they didn't show up to the sentencing today, but they did like submit a testimony for the court. And they said that they are really sad that their dad's gone, and that they wish that he could see them graduate and um, teach them to hunt and fish and all of that stuff. And that they are really upset with their mom, and that they would be afraid if she was ever to get out for their own safety, and that they would consider her like a threat. So I thought that was noteworthy that they have those statements from the children. It's like really sad. I was kind of going off, I think, before I went like silent, but I oh my god, it just made another noise, so I hope it didn't go back to the dash. Hopefully I'm still yeah, I think you can still hear me. All right. Anyways, so yeah, I think we probably won't be hearing much from Corey Richards again. She might be putting in an appeal, but I doubt that she has a case like, I mean, unless something comes up like murder, which I guess you could never necessarily know for sure, but yeah, I don't think we'll hear much more out of Corey Richards. And then also today, David, oh, thank you, Dragon Man. Do you watch Survivor, Dragon Man? Because there's like Coach, who is on season 15. He's like on a bunch of other seasons too, but he was like, well, he's the Dragon Slayer, not the Dragon Man, but so I guess a little bit different. Okay, so yeah, then today also there was a pre-trial hearing. Oh, you've never watched Survivor? I just started watching Survivor like less than a year ago. I watched the first season I've ever watched was season 49. And now I'm watching 50, and then I also just watched season 20. So, and I kind of like it. I'm kind of into it now. And I also like really like Traders, and that's like what got me into Survivors, because Traders is really good, and it has like a lot of characters or like gamers that come from Survivor and Big Brother and those types of shows. So, but anyways, you're, I'm sure, 100% cooler than Coach, because Coach, aka the Dragon Slayer, because he's just kind of weird. So um so forget I even said that. But that what is going on? Oh my god, can you hear anything playing? I'm like so confused right. All of a sudden like music started playing, and I don't know how to come from. Okay, so hopefully, yeah, that was really weird. I don't even know what that song was playing. Anyways, so oh yeah, so today, David, the case that I've been kind of following up on and talking about over the last couple of weeks, David Anthony Burke, he is I believe, 21-year-old who has been arrested on charges of unaliving his like a 14-year-old girl named Celeste. And he is an interesting artist that I have been reading over the brief that he did, or that they so that he got arrested a couple of weeks ago, and they just released the brief 2 weeks ago, and I've been going through that and comparing it to some of the research that I was doing on David before he was arrested, because they found Celeste's unalived body in his car last September. So but today he had a like pretrial meeting, and it was decided that they pushed back the pretrial appointment, or the pretrial hearing, till June 29th. So the defense has the opportunity to go over all of the material that the prosecution is handing over. And they said that they have like 40 terabytes, or whatever the T word is, with bytes, terabytes. Yeah, I think it's terabytes. They have like 40 terabytes of material, and I think a lot of that has to do because he streamed a lot. He was like a really big gamer, and he was on Discord, and he was like a huge Fortnite player, and so I think that that's what they're talking about, like, a 2-hour long stream, or I mean, some people stream for like 12 freaking hours, you know what I mean? So, and I would not be surprised if he was one of them, because I think just from all of the research that I've done and interviews and reading about him and kind of what they presented in the brief, is he was kind of a loner and really found his like sense of self and his, I guess, like fitting into some sort of community through his stuff on the internet, and like his involvements on the internet, because he was homeschooled, and a couple of other things that kind of, I think, contributed to him like doing that. So yeah, so the main thing I think is just that it will be starting June 29th instead of a little bit earlier. But that will give me more time to be able to continue to follow up. I think I'll take this week and then next week to finish kind of following up on the brief that we have been reviewing. And so I will yeah, start talking about that right now. So it's the media that I was not able to get into last week, but that I had mentioned that I know I had evidence of, and that I would find the media and present it this week. So let's see. I think, I guess my main way that I'm looking at this is that we're taking the information from the brief, and that is, what the prosecution is alleging as facts, and what they have as evidence. And then the kind of media that I'm going to be presenting, and some of his like videos that he has put out, and songs and interviews, is more of the, I guess, symbolic world that he has created. And I'm just comparing. I'm not saying that this is now evidence to prove that he's absolutely guilty of this stuff, but I do really find it interesting that a lot of these things that I found last September fit really well with some of the things that have come out in the brief, like currently. So I walked through pages 1 through 6 last week of the brief, and I yeah, I'll just briefly kind of go over what I talked about, and then go into the areas that I have media. So let me actually pull up the media here and share. Let's see. I really need to just like figure out a better way to set up my material stuff, but okay, here we go. Not material stuff, that's funny. My streaming stuff and recording. Okay, you're right. Sorry, I'm just pulling up my files where I kind of organized all of this into, because it was just like really overwhelming, to be honest. When I was like trying to look through, I knew I had so much media and information to back up different points of all of this, but I just didn't really have it like, what the specific media was that matched up with the specific things that the brief was talking about. So I'm going to go into that now. And like I said, I will just go over really briefly. Okay, I'm going to pull this up. Okay, I think this is helpful, and I'm going to just go over this real quick. But it is from the LA Times that I got like within the last week, and it is a timeline of David and Celeste that they put forth in the brief. So I think this is a pretty convenient way to see what they're alleging. So I will share this real quick. Oops. Can't. My displays are not set up correctly. Okay, here we go. All right. I'm going to share screen. A window. Here's the. Okay, cool. Let's try this. No. That one. No. No. Whatever. Okay. I think this will be fine. Yeah, that'll. Well, I wonder if I can move it. Can I move it? Maximize. All right, my bad. Thank you for your patience. I'm gonna try not. Damn it. All right, let's make it bigger. Can't. What the hell? Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! All right, I guess I can't make it bigger. Yeah. Actual size. Okay. Whoa. My bad. Okay, whatever. All right. January, I don't know why this is like lame right now, but January of 2022 is when they say that Celeste and David first met when Celeste was 11 years old. That came out in the brief. And then also they began then a sexual relationship when she was 13 and David was 18, which makes that illegal. And obviously he was grooming her, even if he didn't know it, between the time that she was like between 11 and 13. And that is like really when a little girl kind of starts hitting puberty and the body starts changing. And 13 is still extremely young, especially when someone is 18. Like that's, for sure statutory rape. And it's for sure like taking advantage of a child. So I think that it is really important to remember that, like, as we go through this trial or like through this case, and as I bring up like kind of evidence and what he's talking about, like to just always remember that, like, snap back to when he was dating her, she was only 13. So even if it sounds like she was like living this life that seemed like kind of a mature person, and she might have been a little bit more, I guess, like had like life experience for her age, she's again like still 13. So it says something I definitely about him that he was connecting with 13-year-olds when he was 18 and 19. And especially when you think about not only like the age difference between them, but then when he like started to really become famous and start making a lot of money. Yeah, for sure. Dragon, he said that you could overlook like 17 if he was 18, but the fact that um, you know, she was 13 and not 17 for sure. And like I used to work in two different sex offender programs in prison. And I don't want to say like I did feel bad sometimes for some of the guys because well, I mean, I felt I feel bad for anyone that's in prison, to be honest, but I was like especially feeling bad for people that had dated when, they were both underage, and then they had like kind of timed out where it was still like 3 years apart or something, because you think 3 years really isn't that big of a difference when, maybe you're 24 and 27, but like when you are 18 and like 15, it really does make a difference. So um yeah, yeah. Yeah, right. If she was 17, yeah, exactly, for sure. Like I feel like people shouldn't go to prison for that, to be honest. But every state's different, but this is ridiculous. If he's literally an adult and she's 13, like there's just no excuse for that. Even no matter how, underdeveloped he is and stunted in terms of like mental, emotional development, he um still was 18. And then once they started dating, because, it says here, David and Celeste allegedly began a sexual relationship when she was 13 and he was 18. And that was in November of 2023. So that was like right when he started to become famous. And when he really started making it big, making a shit ton of money, he was, able to rent out a huge house in Hollywood Hills for like $30,000 a month, which is insane. And he bought a Tesla, and like I think he bought a house for his parents. I mean, it was like overnight he went to nobody to like someone who was living basically on top of the world. Like I think I think anyone around that age would start to be a little bit like, I don't know, maybe it would be hard to really grasp reality at that point unless you have really supportive family or just a really good, head on your shoulders. But I don't think it didn't sound like he had like a huge support system. And kind of maybe a naive family too. Um, so yeah. And then um in February of 2024, Celeste, a then 13-year-old seventh grader, is reported missing by her family from her Lake Elsinore home. And in February 17th of 2024, the Riverside County Sheriff's Office reportedly calls David after they identified his phone number in Celeste's phone records. He allegedly tells deputies he last talked to Celeste on February 13th or 14th, so obviously like Valentine's Day, but he claims he didn't know she was a minor and didn't know she had been reported missing, but he had known her since January of 2022. So that means like it had been 2 years, and I just don't honestly believe him. And then especially here, deputies then inform him that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies would be visiting him at his home. At the time, he lived in West Hollywood. When deputies arrive at his home that same day, prosecutors say they again tell him that Celeste is 13 years old and a runaway. David allegedly tells them that he was unaware of that and says he had only met her once in person in November of 2023, which right there, it's already contradicting what he said when he last saw her, which was like a couple of days beforehand, that February. So obviously he was like being pretty stupid and like stumbling over his words. Like I don't know if he just didn't realize it was a pretty big deal, or if he was just not, again, like super smart about like reality and like what is like actually happens as an adult for someone. He was raised, like he was homeschooled for a while, and then he was like part of a Christian background too. So I think to like have such like a background where you're so kind of like isolated and secluded, you don't really talk to that many people, and then all of a sudden to be like traveling the world and making like millions and having billion streams of your music is would just be such a trip. And I think if you think about that too, like at the time he was renting out, like I said, $30,000 a month for this Hollywood Hills home, and he is like 18 or 19, and he has this 13-year-old girlfriend who he's having to come live with him. Like if you think about the disparity, or not disparity, but like differentiation between these two people, like not only is he like an adult, but he also has so much more money than her, like so much more power and control in this relationship that it's just like another example of his grooming behavior with her and like just kind of forcing her or like tricking her, manipulating her, grooming her into this like pretty like predatory relationship, as we can see, ended up being very predatory because he ended up like unaliving her, like allegedly. So, anyways, so he's dumb and he lied about her, and then he reportedly tells deputies, this is still February 17th, he didn't know where she was, but then Celeste returns to her like Elsinore home 2 days after the conversation. So it was like obviously he got the clue. Somehow that information got back to Celeste, you know? And then February of 2024, again, Celeste's family reportedly takes her cell phone away after she returns home from being reported missing. That's like after she returned home, after David sent her there. So they take away her cell phone, so she's not able to contact him. But then prosecutors allege that David paid a junior high student, like, so this is one of her seventh grader friends, in Celeste's class, $1,000 to give her a cell phone that he had purchased so they could keep talking. So again, think about this, like, this girl, this, like, teenager, seventh grader is, like, you know, listed as a runaway. You're 5 years older than her. You have, like, tons of money. You're living in this super sweet house. You can probably, like, buy her anything. You guys can just, like, kind of, like, live the life, you know what I mean? Like, play all the games that you want and, like, buy all of the, like, you know, DoorDash that you want, um, and I think it was, like, his first relationship too. And I think it was probably they were just, like, kind of living on cloud nine, like, the both time like, both probably it was the first time for both of them probably that they weren't living, like, home with their families, and so they were kind of, like, probably making house and all of that, and then it's like, you know, you can't do that because she's a runaway, you have to go to school, like, you can't just, like, disappear when you're 13 years old and, like, not have people saying something about it. And then, so her parents are pissed and they probably don't know how to deal with it. They're like, "Give us your phone." And then he shows up, you know, like Lake Elsinore is, well, actually I like Googled the locations and Lake Elsinore is like an hour and a half away from LA, like Hollywood Hills. And he shows up there and offers $1,000 to pay someone so he can, like, give her a phone so they can still stay in contact. So that's, like, basically him showing up and being like, "You can't get rid of me." You know, that seems, like, pretty stalkerish to me. And then they say here that the pair spent a significant amount of time together in 2024, including the weekends at his home in Hollywood Hills, traveling to Las Vegas, London, and even to Texas to meet David's family, prosecutors say. But the family says that don't they didn't know that she was underage, which, I mean, I could see that being true if they knew, but she looks young. She looks super young. Um, and then in April of 2024, Celeste is reported missing again by her family. So she's obviously like probably back with David. And then on September 7th, 2024, she turns 14 years old. And then apparently in November, and this is like the police and the prosecutors like do have apparently all of their phone communications between each other. And so they were able to see probably like, oh, here they were like they didn't really text each other because they were living with one another. And then it's like then they end up um uh yeah, like probably being on different lives together, like live streams when he was doing Fortnite and all of that, but then it sounds like, you know, about a year into the relationship, David and Celeste reportedly break up but continue to communicate. And prosecutors say that a text suggests they also continue to have a sexual relationship. So, in which, I mean, that's, I feel like another sign of like a pretty immature and unhealthy relationship is someone that is like always going back and forth, like breaking up, getting back together, having a fight, breaking up, getting back together. And that makes sense because she's 14 years old. Like my first boyfriend was when I was 14 and I was like super immature about it. You know what I mean? And then they say in March 2025. So now this is like, you know, 4 months later, that prosecutors say a text sent from Celeste to David says, "All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself," which is kind of sad that she texts that to him. And it sounds like they were just, she felt like she wasn't like doing anything, you know, like she wasn't being challenged. All they do is sit around and just have sex, and, you know, he's doing other stuff. But I mean, if she has to be hidden and try to, like, you know, he's basically just keeping her around, it sounds like, maybe as his like muse or whatever. But I mean, and when I'm going to show you too some of this media that shows, I think, him and how he felt about her, and like through his like songs and different testimonies from his actual from interviews and stuff too. Okay, then it says David and Celeste reportedly get into a lengthy argument in which Celeste threatens to disclose information about the relationship to end David's career and destroy his life. So it sounds like she actually like threatened that. And I think it was because I think reportedly I read somewhere that it turned out that he like had cheated on her. And so she was like, you know, screw that, like, you cheated on me, and like, I want this to be over. But then he was like kind of going back and forth, and like obviously was like not able to, I guess, like support a relationship this serious at that age. And it sounded like on April 22nd, she was really over it and was threatening him, you know? So then on April 23rd, 2025, so this is last year, just a little bit over a year ago, that Celeste was last known to be alive when she arrived at David's rented home in Hollywood Hills on April 23rd, 2025. And David allegedly sent an Uber to pick up Celeste from her Lake Elsinore home and bring her to his house around 8:40. Celeste reportedly arrives around 10:10. David reportedly texts her and asks her where she is at 10:30, but prosecutors believe she was already dead by this time, and the texts were part of a premeditated plan to cover up her murder. Prosecutors allege that shortly after she arrived, David stabbed Celeste multiple times and watched her bleed to death. David then leaves his home around 11:30 and drives to an area near Lake Ketchuma in Santa Barbara County, all while still texting and calling Celeste's phones, prosecutors say. Tickets for David's world tour go on pre-sale, which is kind of fun. I mean, I shouldn't like obviously be joking about this, but you know, like you could potentially be like, well, this is going to mess up the tour. Like what he did to her, you know, it's going to totally mess up the tour. And then you're supposed to say, what tour? And then you say, the world tour. Like that's the like running joke about Justin Timberlake, which that's something else that I would be interested in going over sometime too, is like kind of the body camera videos from when he was arrested. Just like he got arrested like a year or two ago, but they were trying to like suppress or like not release the body cam video because he was embarrassed, I think. But then he ended up they did end up releasing it, and he looks like a total fool, and it's like weird. He's like, at one point he's like asked them, he's like, oh no, I'm black man. Like when they're like, yes, and you're a white male, he's like, no, I'm black man. I'm like, dude, what kind of joke is that? That's like super kind of awkward to like, I'm like, you wish you were black. Yeah, like I feel like he kind of acts like, you know, but just weird that he would say that like that. And then he like has this weird friend that is with him, and she's like starts like begging the cops to like let him go, and she's like, please do us a favor. I'm like, dude, these famous people must all get off on this shit, like, because he seemed really surprised that they like actually were fine. And he's like, is this how you treat everyone? And they're like, yeah, dude, like, you know what I mean? It's just weird. So, anyways, road tour is kind of that running joke. All right, so then April 24th, 2025, David reportedly returns to his Hollywood Hills home after driving to Santa Barbara County. So this is like, you know, the next morning after he allegedly red-rummed her. And he allegedly sent 2 more texts to the teen's phone, to Celeste's phone, but never attempts to contact her again after April 26th. And then they say on April 24th, he goes to a radio interview to promote his new album. And they say this right below that, but his album Withered, the next album that he is releasing, literally comes out the next day. And that David orders a shovel on April 24th from Home Depot that is delivered to his home via Postmates, according to court documents. And then the next day, on April 25th, he releases the debut studio album, Withered. And then the music video for the song One More Dance depicts David placing a bloodied body in the trunk of a car. So I think I'll play that right here. Because this is still kind of a lot. Wait, what? Yeah, I'm gonna just go because yeah, hold on. Let me just pull up. Okay. Go to the other screen. I have like two screens, but it's like, okay, here we go. Let's see. All right, here we go. Whoops. Oh, here. Okay, so here is an example of the missing persons poster that they sent out. Let's see. What the hell? Oh my God. Okay, I'm getting a little frustrated by the way that my displays are set up. But so I might. So yeah, it's been about 40. No, it's been an hour and 6 minutes. So, and okay, I think I'm gonna try to come on tomorrow afternoon because I have all of this stuff already gathered and I just really haven't had the opportunity to share it with you guys yet. And it's kind of annoying me because I do have this shit, but okay, wait, here we go. Okay, here we go. Let me get away. Okay, so here we can see, let me see if I can actually. Oh yeah, no, you can see this pretty well. Yeah, so here you can see, oh, what the hell? Did I just take a screenshot of this? So yeah, you can see here, she definitely to me looks like a 13-year-old. Like, I don't think well, I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, could she pass for 18? I don't know. I feel like she looks tiny. Um, so, but this might have been when she was like 13. Um, but yeah, 120 pounds, 5'3". And then last seen, it says April 5th of 2024. Which is that actually correct? Because she was gone like all of 2024 with David, and then they break up in November of 2024. And then it sounded like she was back in Lake Elsinore when he paid for her to come to him in August of 2026. So I don't really know. Yeah, I think so too, that she could pass for 18. I agree. Like, people probably did believe that she was 18 if they told them. But yeah, that's tough to say. But yeah, the thing that does really confuse me is they say here, that the last time that she was seen is April of 2024. But they said that she was back in Lake Elsinore. Like, they broke up that November of 2024. And then she was like, probably they were still hooking up together, but she probably wasn't living with him from the sounds of it. Because especially like in April, they send her a or he gets an Uber and has her brought to him after she found out that he was like hooking up with other people. So he was probably like super into her and super dedicated. I bet she was like his first love. And then after they broke up, then he started to kind of like, see other people, and then she freaked out. And then who knows really like what was going through his mind when he decided to unalive her. Like, I wonder if it was based off of like rage or if it was like he was actually worried that she was going to out him. Um, maybe it's both. I could see it maybe being both. Yeah. And then here I have I looked up on maps like where the different locations are, because what they're saying too is that he let me see. All right. Let me see. Like, I need to get better about this media stuff. Let's see. I remove and then add stop. Here we go. Okay. Here is the MapQuest location of Lake Elsinore, where she lived. So you can see it right here where the heart is. And it is, I can't remember like how they described it, but I think it's like a place where people, it's just like a working town, and yeah, just a little bit outside of um LA. It looks like, I guess, I don't know, it looks like just kind of a suburb of LA. Like LA is so huge, like Thousand Oaks is up here. That looks like kind of the same distance almost. And I feel like Thousand Oaks is part of LA. So, but then it does look like, well, I don't know. It says it's a city in Western Riverside County, California, established as a city in 1888 on the shore of Lake Elsinore. That's kind of what it looks like. And then, let's see, we've got here, and then here's his Hollywood Hills location. Okay. Stop sharing. And then Hollywood Hills. Hey, one day I'm going to get good at this media stuff. Here's the Hollywood Hills location. And you can see here, right here, down right kind of in the middle of LA is where his house is that he's renting. So you can see the difference from LA to Lake Elsinore. This is Lake Elsinore down there. And they say it's about like an hour and 20 minutes or something. And then this upper part is where they are alleging that David drove on 3 separate occasions to go to like an off-road in Santa Barbara. And they haven't said exactly like what he was doing there, but I think that they're like alleging that that's like maybe where he went to like dismember her body. And it was like off of this random highway. And then in January, like after they found her body in September of 2025, in January of 2026, or maybe December of 2025, they ended up finding her ID out there too in the same area. So, and then here is the driving directions between could be an easier way to do it. Yeah, driving directions. So you can see here that from his house in Hollywood Hills up to where they're kind of saying that the location that he drove to off of, they called SR 154, and when I put that in, it showed up as California 154. So I just went with that. It's about 2.5 hours outside of Hollywood Hills, so it really does make you think like, what else is out there? I mean, it looks like it is a pretty, like they have a national forest here, and they drive through Santa Barbara. They'd be driving, yeah. So I don't really, I do wonder what's out there. I'm really interested to hear kind of their theory about that. And let's see. Oops. God damn. Why does Siri like keep thinking I'm talking to her? Like, Oh my God. This display shit is really frustrating me. I'm back. Alrighty, so then what else? Let me look at my outline real quick. Because I have this all okay. All right, so then the next thing that I'm gonna get into, which to be honest, I think that this is gonna be a good place for me to stop. It's like 11 o'clock my time, and I've been on for like an hour and 15 minutes. And even though like the first 20 minutes I was going in and out of you know, uh whatever it's called, I of audio, this kind of evens it out to at least make it an hour. So I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do a little bit more. Yes, Dragon Man, thank you. Have a good evening as well. Thank you for attending. I seriously appreciate it. And I don't know if you heard, but like I am only 18 people away from my goal of 500 people. So anyone that's listening right now, subscribe if you're not subscribed, because I'm almost to my 500 goal. And yeah, like comment and let me know if there's anything specific that you want to follow up on. But tomorrow I will do another live that will be like about an hour, and I'll talk about the specifics with the missing finger and the Atami character. And also, here, let me, I'm going to be, yeah, missing fingers, Sukana, I believe you pronounce it that way, is like an anime character that he's really interested in. And then there's like also his kind of make up of anime himself with the Atami character, which is his like alter ego that he talks about. And I have a bunch of media and screen recordings and screenshots and articles that touch on all of those. And then also I want to talk about the Withered album and what he talks about like with that. And I have recordings about that too, and like some writings, because he talks about how the new Withered album is really him starting brand new and like putting to rest everything else. So it's kind of like a new rebirth after a death. And it's just interesting to me that they're alleging that he red rummed her a day before this Withered album like is up. So in a way, to me, it's like he's putting this like chapter of his life to rest and like moving into this new Withered, era. And then that's like where he ends up going out on tour, like the world tour or whatever, when it ends up coming out that they found his car. And and then I'll talk about too, like in those same things with the red string theory and his theories behind that, and then some other quotes that he talks about too. And so yeah. And yeah, cool. Well, thank you again to everyone, and I will plan on seeing y'all tomorrow. I think I'll probably try to go. I actually have plans tomorrow evening, so I think I will be going live. And maybe I'll just try to schedule it right now for tomorrow afternoon at like 2 o'clock or something. I think that would be a good idea. But all right, well, have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you so much. And peace and love. Talk to you later. Bye.